We're going to start with our second panel on our stage today with MasterCard, with probably one of the hottest topics in the whole South Summit agenda that I've been seeing from the last 2 days. An area that I think is full of opportunities, and we'll discuss with probably one of the best partners in Europe how they are seeing the evolution of this technology on the fintech space. So let me introduce our panelists. First, Andre Gardella, CEO of Treasure. Please join me on the stage. Florent Tardivell, CCO of Chuan. Jaime Rentero, CCO of Pecunpay. And last but not least, my friend Karim Chouli, SVP, Sales and Marketing in Clovercard. Please kindly have a seat. We're going to get started. So for those of you that are not familiarized with this topic of bank as a service, it's something that probably have existed over the last 20, 30 years in a very non-technical based or sophisticated technical based, powered by traditional banks serving merchants on the Garante space. But over the last 5, 10 years, we've been a massive growth in companies with tech-based, typically fintechs, that have started to innovate in this space, trying to serve multiple use cases with an open architecture, trying to embed all type of financial services that can be consumed by fintechs, but also by traditional banks. Traditional banks have this issue with their legacy system, and more we are seeing collaboration on this space between traditional banks and fintechs. So today here we have 4 of the leading companies operating in the bank as a services space in Europe that actually, based on the last research done by McKinsey, it is expected in the next 7 years, the market opportunity is around 100 billion. So we expect that we'll see more and more of these companies emerging. And I would like to get started with my friend Andre, talking about, we've been seeing, some companies going under, but some others, like Treasure, being part now of a very important banking group in France, Société Générale. And I would like to get your view, Andre, on the latest trends that you've seen in terms of use cases over the last few years. Where do you see this market going?
Yes, thank you, Alejandro. Basically, it's very. I'm very pleased to share a little bit of our experience today. Treasure was founded in 2015. We got the license from the French Central Bank in 2016. So I think we are one of the pioneers in the bank as a service industry in France, but also in Europe. And we have seen a strong trends in terms of evolution of use cases that companies like Treasure are serving. Treasure was founded to be a kind of fintech of fintechs, because basically what is difficult with our industry is that when friends and family ask for us, what exactly do you do? It's not always very easy to explain. And the approach by the use cases is the right one, because then you can visualize what we do. So basically, fintech of fintechs, it was what? It was the possibility for companies like Treasure to sell the license and technological bricks in order to make possible the birth and the growth of other fintechs, which were then able to focus on what they were good at, delegating to Treasure these regulatory and technological bricks. So basically, this was the beginning. Some of our first agents grew up quite well. They became unicorns. I'm thinking about Shine. I'm thinking about Conto, who is present in this event. I'm thinking about Lydia. And then our business model evolved as well, and we started developing an offer for payment institutions. And when you serve payment institutions, i.e. fintechs which are themselves regulated, then you are able also to address some needs in the corporate industry, in the corporate space. And in terms of use cases, concrete use cases, so at the very beginning, it was about neobanks. And this has not changed. We still have businesses with neobanks, quite acting in the silver banking area or in the green banking area or in the family banking. We have the example of PixPay, which we are accompanying in Spain as well and which is having a nice success in Spain. And then many other use cases. We have published a white paper on embedded finance. It is available on our website, which describes several different use cases which range from mobility to distribution of social subsidies to the cultural vertical, management of expenses for corporates, and so on and so forth. So the market is big and it's really booming in all the directions.
I totally agree. We're seeing more and more use cases. Let me switch to the other corner. So Karim, Clever Cards, which is a different company, focused on other type of use cases. What have been the trends you've seen after COVID in terms of, opportunities, evolution of your company?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I say, during pandemic, right, it was very clear that traditional financial institutes had difficulty responding to customer needs for self-service tools as well as payment. Moreover, they had challenges with their staff who are now working remotely in disparate, outside of bricks and mortar, accessing systems to support their customers. Invariably, they were relying on partners like processors to help them provide the customers with data information they needed. So I've seen the need to support both internal customers and external customers through innovation, through non-traditional banking services, i.e. through BaaS capabilities, really accelerated. So post-pandemic, I think we're seeing a lot of ramping up of these capabilities with fintechs powering traditional banks, with fintechs powering other fintechs, and with fintechs powering non-traditional card issuers, i.e. merchants who now become card issuers themselves. So we're seeing lots of opportunities to partner, lots of opportunities for different distribution channels, and banking as a service is becoming very much more prolific and meeting the needs of both the end customer as well as internal staff that are servicing end customers.
Thanks a lot, Karim. Jaime, so PecuMPay is a well-established EMI in the Spanish market. You've been in the game for a number of years as well. What have been your view on following the change of COVID? What have been the things that you've seen in the market that have been under your radar?
Well, obviously the number of contactless transactions has increased a lot. That's a reality. And in PecuMPay, the mobile payments have grown much more faster than they estimated. Right now, the 60% of the transaction right now are made by digitalized cards. So it's a significant number. Let me give you a dumb example, okay? Before COVID, I mean in consumer card programs, okay? In consumer card programs, before COVID, we issue all the programs, 100% of the programs was issued in a physical format, and some of them giving the option to the final user, to the end user, or request a virtual card, okay? Maybe for subscriptions, Netflix, HBO, whatever. After COVID, the situation has reversed, completely reversed, and right now every program that we sign, every card program that we sign is issued in a virtual format, and some of them offer or request for a physical card and paying for that. So I think it's a great change.
Thanks a lot, Jaime. Absolutely. Digital first is becoming more and more not just an innovation model, but the must-have. So I'd like Florian to get your view, now that Swan is very present in this market, based on your experience in other markets in Europe. What have been your experience over the last few years in terms of trends?
okay, on the trends.
After COVID, and
Yeah. So I think the company is actually was actually launched during COVID times. So we didn't expect it, we didn't live the previous COVID period. But what's for sure is that you can identify two major trends. So it's just a massive acceleration of digitalization, and then more work from home. And how it can impact our business typically. In terms of digitalization, we see that the expectations of the customers are much higher than what they were 5 years before. And as such, you must deliver a great experience, and you have a strong focus on having more facilitated payment workflow, for instance. And I think banking as a service has a good role to play there. And on the working from home part, I think one of our best use case is expense management, for instance. And we can see that for expense management, it's no longer something centralized where only your CFO is allowed to pay. It's something where you have to give virtual cards to employees in your company and to let them pay and use these virtual cards, still control them remotely. So there again, I feel that banking as a service has a good innovative role to play, because we can accelerate this trend, or if not accelerating, at least supporting it by making it more easy to spend remotely from home.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that. That digitization and the new way of people setting is going to totally change the demand of programs. Karim, Clever operates in a specific space. Recently launched some programs. Now, do you would like to scale in Spain and Europe? What are the main challenges that you're seeing in your plan for expansion?
100%. So I always find it interesting when people say the European region. We all know that every country within Europe has its own unique requirements, needs, etc. So in general, when we're looking at a new market, i.e. in this case Spain, it's important for us to identify the need in the marketplace, the use cases, what problems or opportunities exist, and what solution can we deliver that help to either take advantage of the opportunity or to resolve a problem that exists. So that's market fit, step one. Step two, localization of resources. You need to have bums in seats, feet on the street, so to speak, that are local, that understand the market, and are not foreign, so to speak, because there are unique attributes to this market. So localization is key. Third, we need to rely on existing partners. MasterCard's a fantastic strategic partner of Clever Cards, and obviously work with yourselves to better understand Spanish market or any other market you want to enter. That's the third thing. And the fourth piece that's important for us as an organization is that we do look for distribution partners in markets such as Spain, where we would rely on additional resources and knowledge, domain expertise to help distribute our products in a fit-for-purpose way, in a purposeful way, and so forth. So those are four key attributes that typically we look at any market and what we're looking at in terms of the Spanish market right now.
Continuing with Florent, taking into consideration that you've been building your business over the last 3 to 4 years, and you are trying to move into markets like Spain. What's your view, and what are the things that you need to overcome over the next few years to crack it?
Yeah. So I personally joined Swan 2 years ago, and when I joined, I was telling myself we're on the best industry to scale in Europe. Why? Because SEPA works across 30 countries. The regulation is now harmonized across 30 countries as well. MasterCard, you let us issue cards that are operable in many countries. And the Eurozone, it's today 19 countries. So if you'd like to launch something that is already European, like the payment industry, the BaaS industry is maybe one of the best to start with. Then, I think this was my position when I joined. I've learned along the way that it's not that easy because, as you mentioned, Karim, you have to localize your product. Here in Spain, we now have to provide local support in Spanish. We have a partner called OkTicket. They need to have, they partner with Spanish companies. They obviously need to be served in Spanish. So you can localize the support, you localize your product, you localize the onboarding part. And lastly, I finish with this, but it might actually be the cornerstone to start localizing your product. You must have local accounts, local IBANs. Why? Because if you're a Spanish company, you don't want to have an account that starts with FR. You want an account that starts with ES. And this is something that we are about to release, our Spanish account, Spanish IBANs, and it's a must-have in our view to really become local and not only stay very European at a broader level.
I would like now to get the view of you guys, of Andre and Jaime. Let me start with Andre. Established company operating now in multiple countries in Europe. I mean, you are on your good way in expansion, but what will you see the challenges ahead for Trezor over the next few years?
Yeah, I would say that the challenges I see for Trezor are basically the challenges that I see for the BaaS industry as a whole. I see mainly two. I understand the points of the local IBAN, but still, I mean, there are many use cases for which you don't really need the local IBAN. So yes, it's important to have it, but it's not white and black, I would say. The two big issues, not issues, but challenges I see in terms of scaling up are first of all, the fact that it's a new market. It's a new thing, it's a new animal, it is evolving quite fast. It is evolving quite fast under our action, and it is evolving quite fast also for the regulators, which have a moving, an increasing understanding of what the BaaS is, but maybe always with a little time lag in respect to reality. And I would say that for what is in our hands, one of the challenges I see is pricing. At the end of the day, I think that as for any new industry which is quite recent, the blue ocean is still to come. The present balance is not, in my view, sustainable for the development of our industry in the long run. I think that the average prices that are applied to BaaS services do not cover the actual costs of our companies and the risk we take, but because there is some risk also in what we take. Some of our agents are more aware of them, some of them are less aware, but I mean, we bear a risk and there is a price for the risk. So this is the first point. And the second point, I would say that it is regulation. The more the regulators see this strange animal growing, the more deeply they look into it, and the more they have comments and they have totally legitimate comments and desires which we need to apply. When Société Générale bought Trezor, it was at the very beginning of 2019. We had 38 employees. We are now 220, and out of the 220, almost 30%, 30, are somehow directly or indirectly involved with compliance and risks, operational risks, credit risks, etc. So it's a huge part of our business at the end of the day. I was saying before that our companies basically are a license and technological bricks. Well, the license is not just a concession that is given by the authorities. It is a concession which triggers obligations, and these obligations are an important part of our business. So I would say yes, that the challenges are there: pricing and our ability to follow the increasing expectations and again legitimate expectations from the regulators.
Jaime, in your position as one of the leading incumbents banking service players in Spain, what have been the challenges you've seen in your space?
Well, I think that the challenge that we have to face is in this sector is the constant need of innovation, and when you talk about innovation, obviously you have to talk about user experience, no? And obviously your partner wants the minimal friction when you are going to when the end user is going to make the transaction, no? But we, as regulated company, we have to take care of for the user, and I think you must have the perfect balance between user experience and safety, no? Because obviously we are the entity, and we have to say that.
Absolutely. I mean, we've been talking over the last few minutes on some of the changes to regulation, the fact that we need to build next UX and adapt to the new use cases. But I'm positive on the growth opportunities. As I said before, this market is going to become very big in the next 5 to 10 years. And we will for sure, as an industry, overcome, as we have done. If we look back 10 years ago, Jaime, you mentioned at the beginning, contactless. Contactless 10 years ago was less than 50%. Now we are seeing in most of the big merchants it's around 80%. So we, as an industry, have been able to overcome the user experience on physical stores. And I would like now to ask you, Jaime. Looking forward in terms of growth. There's a lot of bank as a service operating in the market now. What would you say are your biggest strengths or capabilities versus other players?
Well, I don't know if it's the best place to talk about this, but
put you on the spot.
I think banking as a service is based on listening carefully to your partner, because obviously they are who are in daily contact with the end user, and we are trying to do. And since the very beginning in Pay, we were clear about having our own banking platform, and thanks to that, we didn't depend on third-party providers for winning time or flexibility or whatever. I think that's our key for growth.
Your biggest strength. Florent, I would like that, as we said before, you are now entering in multiple markets. What would you say are your strongest strengths and capabilities that you are portraying to your customers?
Yeah, and indeed, I agree with Jaime. It's a more elegant way to explain a bit ourselves. I think the company was founded with three things in mind, all around the idea of lowering the entry barrier on this market. And the first part is about all the regulation aspects, because obviously it's an industry that must be regulated, and more than not enough. But not all companies are capable of doing the regulation part by themselves. And this is what Swan changed, in our view, by providing this regulatory setup called a commercial agent that lets any company operate without too much complexity, and using our banking as a service services. We still are in charge of all the most risky aspect of all this payment industry. The second part was about all the technological aspects. It should be fast to integrate. It should be open. We have just released an open source version of our web banking to accelerate even more the integration. It's reduced by 75% the integration time. So everything is done so that, once again, it shouldn't be that complex to integrate and to get started with a banking as a service platform. And the third part, you spoke about pricing, and I agree that we have to find a fair pricing, but we also have to take into account that we are here to equip many fintechs, and not all of them can afford to pay high setup fees, and we have to take this situation into account. And I think from day one, we have this position that we should not charge any setup fees, and we have a business model that is a pay-as-you-go model that allows any company, regardless of their size, to collaborate with us.
That's great. Karim, what's your view on how Clever Cards can win in the market? Sorry, just your strengths in the market and your...
Yeah, I think that, what we learned, our business mantra is that, pay and be paid anywhere, anytime, instantly. So we do instant issuance, and I think that's really, and it's digital only. And as we've been sort of riding that digital wave, as more increasing adoption of digital card usage is being embraced in many European markets, we think that we're well positioned. We do card issuance, we handle the processing, we handle e-money, and we've got all the applications and APIs that our customers need. So I got a full stack, and in some degrees, there's some uniqueness to that. The digital-only piece is somewhat unique, and the speed in which I can grant customers access to cards is impressive. So, we have a large banking customer that put up our product offering for rewards and incentives program to all 5,000 staff. and the option was to select a digital Clever card, prepaid MasterCard, versus a closed loop physical card, and 98% of employees selected our digital product. And now, we're pretty much fully penetrated within this FI, and we have opportunity. And we are seeing reoccurring spend, requests for reloads and whatnot for additional use cases. So I think, to us, that's a bit of a unique proposition. We enter, in one fashion into a client environment, it gets fully embraced, and then we're able to, I don't like saying the word upsell, but we're able to show value in additional use cases for how they can use our product once they give it a go, so to speak. So we're seeing a lot of growth there. We ended up in an 8-week period generating 2,000 business customers last December and January, for example, and that's pretty impressive. And we're seeing continued growth along the same basis as we go forward.
Excellent. We gained a lot of traction there on other use cases. And Andrea, I would like to get your view on Trezor. Being in the market for a number of years, as we've been discussing through this session. What do you think would be your key strengths to continue to win in the market?
Yes, I think speaking of strengths maybe is a bit pretentious, so I will maybe speak more about differentiating factors.
Absolutely.
Which at the end of the day is not very different. The first one, I see three main assets for Trezor. The first one is that we are a pioneer in this industry. So we have seen the evolution of this industry from the beginning, and we saw all the evolutions that this industry underwent. And this gives us some reflexes and some maybe some capability of anticipation of what can happen in the future. The second one is that we are natively European. We are natively European. We opened, I think Florent or Karim, I don't remember, spoke about the importance of being local, or global maybe, but certainly being local as long as the client contact and the client relationship is related. So we have branches in Spain. We have a branch in Spain, a branch in Italy, a branch in Germany. We cover Benelux from Paris. And we did that at the very beginning of Trezor's history. So this gives us also some kind of reflexes. I agree with Florent and with Karim. The EU is a one single market, yes and no. Yes and no, because at the end of the day, when you make your business passporting your French or German or Italian license, you get aware of the fact that passporting a license, yes, it's good, okay? You don't undergo the licensing process again with the local central bank, but still you have some bits and pieces of regulation and of legislation which apply to the business that you do in each and every country. So at the end of the day, all the compliance stuff is not something that you can treat only from a centralized point of view, hiding yourself behind the fact that it is a European market and there is only a EU regulation. As a matter of fact, it's not true. And the third big differentiator is our shareholding structure. Société Générale bought Trezor in 2019, and we welcomed MasterCard recently at the end of 2022. So we have two big companies behind us. This is very important for two reasons. The first one is that I can focus, as a CEO, I can focus on the business, I can focus on developing the company without needing to spend a significant part of my time in preparing the next fundraising. So this unfreezes some time, which is precious, to focus on clients and to focus on the business. And the second one is that I mentioned that the roots of Trezor are in the fintech area. We were the fintech of fintechs. We don't abandon this area. It's our history. We are proud of it, and we go on addressing these needs. But we are also trying to diversify our client base into more established corporates, companies. I was mentioning verticals such as mobility, employees' benefits, You have big corporates behind that. At the end of the day, wherever you have a digital client journey with an embedded payment, you have a room for Trésor to add value and to bring solutions. And in that respect, being backed by Société Générale, which has a strong presence in terms of corporate banking all over the world, and specifically in Spain, in Italy, in Germany, on top of France, is certainly a big help for us. And the same is true for MasterCard, by the way, which is also helping the company to develop itself outside of France.
Absolutely, we are absolutely devoted to make your business grow in Europe. So I think we talked about localization. We talk about quick integrations. This is key, taking into account that now they have a lot of pressure to show to investors, all these companies to investors, profitability and actionability of their business opportunities. We talk about being quick in terms of building value propositions and detail first. So I know you don't have a crystal ball, but I want that each of you can make an effort in predicting what is going to happen in the next 2-3 years, at least in what you see would be your next focus areas or the biggest opportunities that you think are coming, because we've been talking throughout the day on different use cases. This all started as fintech. I agree with you, Andre, that this was pretty much the niche where all bank as a service 5 years ago were focused on serving now the big neobanks. But now more and more we see more sustainable players in the petrol space, in the employee benefits space, even in new areas where even merchants were not considering consuming this type of tech bank as a service players. So I don't know, anyone that would like to start? I don't know, Florent or Jaime or Andre or Karim, what will be your prediction for the next 2-3 years?
I can start. I mean, I'm going to echo your point. I'm not Karnak, I can't predict the future, but I think one thing's for certain, we're going to see further adoption of API usage, between parties, partners and whatnot. So I think the means for, card issuance for non-traditional distributors becomes much more elegant and easy for them to offer to their customer bases. I think we're going to see further adoption of digital as a more favored means to pay and be paid versus plastic. Not sure it's going to completely eradicate plastic the way Blockbuster was eradicated in terms of DVDs, but I think we can see there's certainly a movement towards digitization. In our case of Clever we see general business expenses and digital card usage in that space being ramped up significantly for us. And we're at a nascent stage. We just recently launched some capabilities there, but we think that's going to be a thrust for growth for us as an alternative to traditional corporate cards or business cards that are in the marketplace. The last thing I think is likely going to happen over the next 5 to 10 years is consolidation. There will be some companies that go by the wayside, but there will also be a lot of M&A activity between tech to tech. And I've been through 2 fintechs that have been acquired by large monster organizations. I think that'll happen too, where it's a full-on acquisition.
Excellent. I don't know, Andre or Fuen or Jaime?
I'm happy to take it. So just one anecdote on the fact that we don't have a crystal ball and that we should be very, very cautious and humble.
Okay.
A year ago, if you remember, the interest rates were negatives. And so the funds of our clients are segregated and secured at BNP Paribas. And BNP came at us and told us, hey, you will now have, because you start to process quite a lot of money, you will have to pay us some interest, negative interest. Okay. And so we are going after our clients and telling them, hey, you will have, because you have more than 1 million, 2 million, etc., you will have to pay us back some interest rates. Fast forward 1 year later, interest rates are quite high. Like I think Esther is close to 3%.
3%, yeah.
And actually, clients are coming at us. They've started like 3-4 months ago, coming at us and telling us, hey, actually, there should be a way to make money with all the deposits that I have with your accounts. So in a year, we have just released the first offers to share these revenues on deposits, because we believe that we should share the revenues that we happen to make with our customers. And I think it's quite a major trend that, frankly, we hadn't anticipated that much. Then to speak a bit about the future, because there are a handful of things that are under control still, we will keep growing. We're hiring our first Italian account executive. We will launch later this year Netherlands officially. So we'll keep expanding throughout Europe. I think that's the first big trend for us. We would like to accelerate towards larger companies going enterprise. We already collaborate with Carrefour, for instance, but we'd like to have more of that kind of companies because it's cool to serve scale-ups, startups, but it's even like, why not going after the big guys? And to finish with, only on the technological aspect of things, I can see a lot of excitement within the tech team around artificial intelligence. They've already started to use ChatGPT to translate some of, speaking of being more local, we need to translate our web banking interface, our onboarding interfaces, and everything is today like 90% automated thanks to that kind of tool. So we believe that that will even more accelerate our pace of innovation.
Android, what's your prediction?
Well, I would say maybe three things. First of all, the market is there. I mean, the blue ocean is around us, and we are quite lucky to be in that position because it's not common to be in that position. Every industry is not in the same position as us. The market is there. We see a lot of demand in very diversified use cases. The second point, and you know, I have some white hair on my head, so I saw a few crises in my banking career. What makes me very comfortable with our industry is that at the end of the day, we serve real needs. I mean, each time I sign a new agent, I understand why I sign. I understand the value I add. No, I say that because nowadays there are many companies that are flourishing around us, and at the end of the day, you can ask to yourself, well, but how will this make humanity progress? What kind of needs are they really addressing? No, this is not our case. I mean, I think for the four of us, when we sign a new client, we really address a need which is real, which means that, you know, if you take the combination of the market is booming and what you do makes sense, I mean, all of us have several reasons to be, many challenges in front of us in terms of operational risk, development, etc. But this makes me sleep very well at night because, I mean, you have a market that is booming, you know what you're doing, it makes sense, so, I mean, you will have a future for your company, that's sure. And the third point, I joined Karim saying that the climate is not today the same as we had in the past years in terms of interest rates, which has an impact on our capabilities to raise funding. It's true for you, but it's also true for us because a bank like Société Générale will be more and more exigent when putting new capital in a business because because the interest rates are higher. The climate is much more and more challenging. I was mentioning before the increasing pressure of regulators. This will not stop. I think they started with the subsidiaries of big corporates, and they will spread down to more independent players as well. And this will be part of our daily business. And I think that this will generate some kind of consolidation in the market.
Absolutely.
What kind of consolidation? Maybe some of us joining forces, maybe more banks buying BaaS players, maybe technology companies buying BaaS players. I think many combinations are possible. You can have synergies in different ways, so there is room for M&A in different ways, but I think that consolidation will come.
Absolutely. Jaime, your...
Summarizing, let me separate the corporate card programs. I'm a deep believer of these programs. I know for sure that it's going to continue growing, absolutely. And in the consumer card side, thanks to you, thanks to MasterCard, we are really focused and we are absolutely, we have interiorists that we are doing a proof of concept with you about integrating the classic concept of super app with a decoupled card. So honestly, we are betting for that, and hopefully, hopefully we will have the key.
That's absolutely a way of innovation. We have 50 seconds left. I would like to take any question from you guys, from the attendees, with this amazing table of panelists.
Hi, thank you, guys. Can you hear me? Yeah, I think it's been pretty interesting. I would like to ask a question to Andre. So MasterCard, invested in the company, but it's also important that the company believed in MasterCard. I would like to know from you, what have you seen from a Tristram Societe Generale perspective in MasterCard that you haven't seen in other schemes, and why MasterCard as the preferred partner in terms of technology, everything?
Well, when you get married, you are two. So maybe I can answer on what we saw in MasterCard, but I think that MasterCard saw something in Trésor as well. Otherwise, they would probably not have put some money in the company. But first of all, let me clarify one thing. MasterCard is a precious partner to Trésor. They help us a lot in our international development because they have a knowledge of the market which is very complementary to the one of Societe Generale. But MasterCard is also agnostic. I mean, it's not because they have put money in Trésor that they will not support other competitors of Trésor as well. So let's make this clear. And on the Trésor side, the same is true. We are, of course, in love with MasterCard, which is, again, a very strong partner on top of being a shareholder. But when an agent insists for us to issue cards from competitors of MasterCard, which I will not name here, we have the freedom to accompany them as well. So basically, what are the ingredients of this partnership? I think it's really the fact that MasterCard is a big player in the payments industry. The issuing of cards is increasingly a priority for Trésor. And I think they bring a knowledge that is priceless, to speak their language.
Thanks a lot. We ran out of time. I think give a round of applause for our great panelists. Thanks a lot, guys.